From money to art to comics, artifacts, and more comics, it's incredible some of the things that can be found in some of the most unexpected places. These people weren't anticipating stumbling across the things they did, but one thing's for sure, they're all lucky. Here, we bring you a list of 13 valuable things found in abandoned places. Number 13. Parisian Payday. In 2010, following the sad passing of a 91-year-old woman in Paris, the woman's family assigned an auctioneer by the name of Oliver Chopin-Yanvry to visit her apartment and take stock of what was inside. When he and his team entered, they got a surprise that they weren't quite expecting: a time capsule of an apartment that was locked up and left behind in the 1940s and never visited again. The contents of the apartment stayed just as they were 70 years previously, and although she never returned, the woman continued to pay the rent on the space until her passing. Inside, Chopin-Yanvry and his team found everything from old books and newspapers, old hairbrushes and perfumes, and stuffed animals. The most amazing discovery, however, came in the form of a painting. The painting was of the apartment owner's grandmother on a lounge, shrouded in an evening gown, and it was done by the famed Giovanni Baldini, a famous 19th century Italian artist. In the end, the painting sold for 2.1 million euros. Number 12. Not So Saint Nick. Good old Nicolas Cage had an expensive item stolen from his house in 2000, only to have somebody stumble across it over a decade later in 2011, inside an old storage locker. A comic book, Action Comics #1 to be exact, was thought to be lost forever, but was found and returned to the actor after a man bought a storage locker containing the comic book amongst everything else inside. It was eventually put up for auction and sold for $2.16 million. It's believed that instead of just letting the man keep the comic that had been lost for 11 years already for the money, Cage may have reclaimed it and have auctioned it himself, like he needs any more money. Okay, maybe he does. Number 11. Valuable cards. Sometime in 2015, a group of urban explorers literally stumbled across a fortune. They were inside of an abandoned warehouse in Detroit when they found crates filled with millions of old Topps trading cards. While there weren't any especially rare cards in the hoard, the sheer number of cards spanning MLB, the NHL, and NASCAR meant a big payday. The cards should technically belong to whoever owns the building, but seeing as no one had been there for years, it was kind of a case of finders keepers. One man now sells them online and makes enough to survive, so good on him. We'll just hope that nobody comes to reclaim what they left behind and starts breaking kneecaps. Gotta find a way to make a buck on those mean Motor City streets. Number 10. Dumpster diving. Alright, so you can imagine being down on your luck. So down on your luck that you resort to hopping up inside a big old dumpster and begin searching for hidden treasures. Now, imagine stumbling across a winning scratch ticket inside said dumpster, taking it in, and finding out it's a winner. That's exactly what happened to an 83-year-old Massachusetts man named Edward St. John. Sadly, somebody else tried to claim the discarded ticket as their own and even took him to court over it, forcing him to settle for only part of the winnings as he's old and wanted to enjoy some of the money before, well, you know. If he had tried to fight it in court, the battle could have gone on for who knows how long. Number 9. Trash can art. So back in 2003, a woman named Elizabeth Gibson went on a nice little stroll for some coffee when she came upon a big abstract canvas tucked away between some garbage bags in New York City. She was drawn to it immediately, but wasn't quite sure why, and almost ended up passing it by. After talking herself out of doing that foolish thing, she took it home with her and, after a little research, found out that it was 3 people, a painting stolen nearly 20 years beforehand, done by Rufino Tamayo, a 20th century Mexican artist. 3 people had been stolen from the previous owner's storage unit it was placed in as they moved houses. The painting is said to be in miraculously excellent condition and was valued around $1 million. Number 8. Super storage. A man from San Jose, California lucked out when he put in a $1,100 bid for a storage unit that yielded him far more than that in return. The guy's name is John, and the bounty was found in gold and silver bars in a Rubbermaid container inside the unit he purchased. While you're only able to decide on the purchase of a unit by glimpsing what you can from the outside, this John fellow was indeed taking a chance when he forked over the $1,100, but we'd be willing to bet he's sure glad he did, as the contents of the container were valued at over $500,000. What a payday. Number 7. Hole in the wall. Jeff Biddleman, a man tasked with cleaning out an abandoned home in 2007, stumbled upon a fortune in rare, old, collectible coins. He was helping the children of the most recent owners clean out the house, and while dragging a bag of coins down the stairs, he noticed a hole in the wall upstairs. When he asked the daughter of the deceased residents about the hole, she told him jokingly it was where her parents threw money. The two decided to investigate further, tearing through the old wall, and found out that the joke wasn't such a joke anymore. To their surprise, inside of the hole was a wealth of old, valuable coins. They range in age, minted from 1826 through 1964, a few dating all the way back to 1793. Among the cash were seeded Liberty dimes and large cents. They cataloged the face value of the coins at around $8,500, but the value to collectors is much higher. They were appraised around $100,000, but Biddleman expressed that they thought they could get much more for the loot. $200,000 was the number he proposed. Mr. Lucky Biddleman's luck ran out in 2013, though, when he was caught up in a stolen savings bond scam and sentenced to 9 months of house arrest and 36 months of probation. Number 6. What's with the comics? What's with people randomly finding comic books that are worth a whole bunch of money? Action Comics #1 keeps popping up in all the right places. Apparently, up in good old, cold old Minnesota, somebody thought it was a good idea to use their comic books as insulation instead of reading or collecting them like a reasonable person. When they discovered just what they had in their walls, they decided to see how much it was worth, and the beat-up old comic turned out to be pretty valuable. It fetched $175,000 to be exact. Here's a thought: maybe they can just pay the heating bill now instead of stuffing their walls with paper. Number 5. Recycling riches. At a recycling plant, a worker named Mike Rogers stumbled across something a little unusual in a barrel. Amidst a bunch of scrap metal and kitchen appliances, old savings bonds that totaled up to roughly $22,000. Instead of pocketing the valuable find, he and his wife took the time to do some research to see if they could find the rightful owner. Sure enough, one man had all the right answers to all the right questions, and Mike, being the good old guy he is, gave them back. They're not sure how the bonds wound up at the plant in the first place, but one thing's for sure: Mike was literally this guy's saving grace. Number 4. Ancient artifacts. Junk removal specialist Nick DiMola was tasked with cleaning out an apartment that once belonged to abstract artist Clinton Hill. Hill's estate paid DiMola's company to clean out the apartment and accompanying storage, and that's when DiMola came across an old barrel that was set aside and thought to be trash. Said barrel was left at a warehouse for years, forgotten by all, until one day he decided it might be worthwhile to take a peek inside. What he found were dozens of ancient Mexican artifacts that consisted of jugs, bowls, and figurines, dated to be between 300 BC and 500 AD. Due to the contract between him and Hill's estate, DiMola didn't have to return the artifacts to, and says he probably plans on selling them in the future. Just one of the pieces, a stone axe god, was appraised at $1,000, making him one lucky guy. Number 3. Cold hard cash. Back in 2011, a man named Josh Farron ran across a giant sum of cash in his home, and instead of spending it, he did what his heart told him was right and contacted the previous owners of the house. It turns out the father of the household had passed away not long beforehand and had spent years and years saving up all of the money to provide for his family when he was gone. Farron admits that at first thoughts of his own financial situation flashed through his head, but he looked past that and found it in himself to do the right thing. An artist and author, Farron says he knows what it's like to spend a lot of time on something and want to see it come to fruition. Well, seems that he sure helped a dream come to pass. Number 2. Tubular time capsule. In 2013, in Tennessee, one Reddit user hit the jackpot when going through his grandparents' home that had been left to his father, who recently passed. When he found no use for the house, the man decided to sell it, and while doing renovations and getting it ready, he stumbled upon something extraordinary: a safe buried in a block of cement, placed under the carpet in a downstairs room that looks as though it hadn't been touched for years. After trying several of his grandfather's other safe combinations, which proved incorrect, the man was all but ready to rip his hair out, not to mention the safe from the floor. Using his brain, he called a locksmith, and after a lot of hard work, they got it open. Inside were old coin books, jewelry, and rolls upon rolls of coins. The loot is said to be worth thousands. Number 1. Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Back in 1991, an art collector purchased a painting at a flea market in Pennsylvania because he took a liking to the frame. Little did he know, hidden behind said frame was an official copy of the Declaration of Independence. The man purchased the national treasure for the small sum of $4, which is incredible considering it yielded roughly 605,000 times that amount. The frame somehow managed to preserve the document, making the copy, quote, unspeakably fresh. Right now, there are only 24 known surviving original copies of the Declaration, 3 of which are in private hands. The flea market find was unbacked, making it one of just 7 copies to be so, which also increased its value. Previously, the record for an official copy sold for $1.6 million in 1990. The fresh-to-death unbacked copy sold for $2,420,000 at auction, making up for having to spend an entire day at a flea market.